Welcome everybody to the October 8th Burnsville Planning Commission meeting, to everybody here in person and also viewing. The first agenda is to call the meeting to order and to adopt the agenda, which includes approval of the minutes from September 24th, 2012, a public hearing for an application of the City of Burnsville for a rezoning from B3 General Business to B3 PUD, General Business Planned Unit Development, for a new fire department training facility located at 50 River Ridge Court. Also a public hearing ordinance amendment to the Burnsville City Zoning Code, Title 10, Chapter 9, addressing land reclamation, mining, soil processing, and general earthwork, and Chapter 26A, interim uses in the GIM Gateway Industrial District, and any updates at the end. I would ask if there's any changes or modifications to that agenda. Hearing none from staff. None from staff. Any from commissioners? Hearing none, I would ask for a motion to approve.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Be moved by Commissioner Singh.
Second.
Second by Commissioner White. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. That would pass 4-0. Next item is the approval of the minutes from September 24th, 2012. Staff, any changes, modifications?
None from staff.
Commissioners? Hearing none, I would ask for a motion. Moved by Commissioner Tahiri. Any seconds?
Sure, I'll second.
Second by Commissioner White. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Hearing none, that passes 4-0. The next item is the public hearing for the application of the City of Burnsville for a rezoning from B3 General Business to B3 PUD, General Business Planned Unit Development, for a new fire department training facility located at 50 River Ridge Court. Mr. Slania, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. As noted in the report, this is a rezoning from B3 to B3 PUD. The subject site is on your screen here. I apologize, I'm going to have to switch between the PowerPoint and the overhead camera, but as noted in the report, the subject site is 13.2 acres. On the south end of the property, the city has its water treatment facility. On the north end, you'll see the Able Training Center, as well as a yard for our Public Works Department. Because of the different uses that exist on the site, as well as the number of buildings on site, staff is recommending rezoning from B3 to B3 PUD, give more flexibility not only to the land uses we're discussing, but some of the deviations that I'll cover in a minute. As you may have noted, the Able facility is a fire training facility for a number of communities in the South Metro, Apple Valley, Burnsville, Lakeville, and Eagan. It is a joint project that has been around since the 70s, has been very successful, so successful in fact that the existing facility is in dire need of upgrades and reinvestment into the project. Currently there are 2 buildings on site, and I'll indicate them here. Here's a larger building and a smaller shed, if you will. The area right around it is paved with bituminous. You access the site off of River Ridge Boulevard and come in right off here. Again, the rest of the area is used for our Public Works Department. The proposal is to demolish the existing facility Here's River Ridge Boulevard, the access drive into the site, the access drive into the Able Center. The water treatment plant is off to the page to the south. Here is the existing two buildings. These two would be removed. There's an existing gravel drive that comes out here. That would be improved with bituminous. There will be some grading work also that occurs in this area for ponding. Let me jump to a slightly improved image. Here's the proposed site plan. Additional bituminous would be added here, as well as out the access drive. That would be for parking and staging of the fire vehicles. The proposed larger building is here, 4 stories in height, just under 1,700 square feet in footprint, but again, tall, and we'll get to some of those images here in a second. Besides the land use, we are dealing with deviations to building height, which can be addressed by through the ordinance through conditional use permit or PUD. Building materials, obviously the intent of this building is to burn inside and out. The ordinance would require high quality building materials, which again doesn't make sense when right after the first use of the building they'll be charred, darkened, smoke, etc. There are multiple buildings on the lot, and again, due to the nature of the use, we do not have building perimeter landscaping or landscaping within the parking lot as we would with a standard commercial or industrial facility. The site provides a significant amount of green space, over 80%. There is limited parking on site, and again, that is because firefighters, fire department staff do not come to this site with their individual vehicles, their personal vehicles. They meet at a city facility, whether it's City Hall or the fire department, fire station, and then move on to the site. So there are not a number of vehicles or dozens of personal vehicles on site. We just are limited to very few. Again, that helps us with the amount of hard surface on site as well as the congestion around the structure. I'll give you just a very brief history of the property. It was approved for an addition to the water treatment facility a number of years ago. Most recently, this lot was combined with a number of other parcels to create this site. There's also a city-owned piece of property right here, which will be, or the city is working on selling for private development to a separate property owner. As I said, the Able facility's been in Burnsville and operational for a number of years. Here is a clean version of the site plan. Again, you can see here the existing building. There will be curb around that building, so it does sit on a bit of a platform that gives the fire staff the ability to mimic a real-world situation where there are curbs. There's a small driveway that leads into a garage scenario, so there are real-world scenarios to deal with. We'll get into the aesthetics and the design of the building, but I just wanted to give you that site plan. And again, here are parking areas for staging of additional vehicles. The building height is a deviation we discussed. The ordinance allows 35 feet. You can exceed that through conditional use permit or PUD. The maximum height of the building will be 40 feet 2 inches. A majority of the site is 3 stories tall. However, you'll see from this west elevation, the 30-foot mark is right here, the 40-foot mark is right here. Again, this allows for different staircase scenarios. It will also allow for different roof designs. Here's the north elevation, which you'll see, if I can find the best image. Let me jump to the south elevation. Here you can see the 3-story scenario, the 4-story tower on the right. The unique situation with this project is it allows the fire department to utilize residential training skills as well as commercial. You'll see up here, part of the roof will be used as sloped roof training, which you'll find in a residential. You'll also see part of the roof will be a flat roof design that you'll see in more of a commercial nature. You'll see a tower for rappelling, other things like that, as well as multiple staircases, multiple layouts on the interior of the building, which I'll let the project manager address that should you have questions on the inside. But again, I did want to deal with the height. We are 7 feet over what the ordinance would permit just by standard issuance of a building permit. The building materials, again, we're dealing with a standard concrete block, nothing fancy, because it is intended to be beat up and abused, and smoke infiltration and so forth. I'll let the applicant get into the unique design of the building, but there are portions of the building that can be reconstructed without demolishing the whole thing, so that costs are less, and if they're focused on certain areas, those areas can be improved without significant cost to the whole project. I did cover the landscape deviations, again because of the close proximity of the curb and the building to the amount of water that's coming down when they are on site, as well as the heat and the fire. Staff feels it's reasonable to staff feels the deviations are reasonable. There is some stormwater improvements going on. You'll see there is a depression right on the north side of the paved area. There will be some clearing and grubbing of trees and some grading. Basically, the engineering department has worked with the fire staff to make sure this is suitable for not necessarily the different chemicals that are being used, but the amount of water and the ash that will be coming out of the building when they are working on the fires. It's lined with clay and other design elements that'll help filter that water a little bit differently than we would for a standard parking lot or shopping center. Our inspections department has been involved with this. They have reviewed the building code with the fire department, and all of those issues have been taken care of. Staff is recommending approval. We feel the deviations are unique to the site and reasonable. Mr. Chair, it is a public hearing. I'll stand for questions. There are 2 conditions. Staff is recommending with approval.
Thank you, Mr. Slaney. Any questions from commissioners? Mr. Singh.
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, I have a couple of questions. The background information did not list the height of the building, but I heard from you the maximum height would be 40 feet 2 inches.
Correct. The total height is 40 feet 2.5 inches.
Okay, 2.5 inches. Thank you for that. My next question, Can you please, on the map, identify the parking, the 7 parking spots for me, please?
Yes, yes, I can. Get back to. I'm using sheet A1 just because it's a little more simplified than the others. We have 4 standard spots right in this corner, standard for standard vehicles, and then we also have parking for the fire rigs up on the top 1, 2, 3 spots on the north end of the site.
So you're limited to 7 parking slots.
Correct.
I think that's very limited because we are having 4 cities in the partnership here. And if we have staff from all 4 participating in one particular exercise, I know you said that staff will not be coming with their own vehicles, but they will be coming with probably a fire rig or something where to bring them off. If 4 cities participate, it's obviously there's no area there for 4 fire trucks.
That is true. Commissioners, Mr. Chair, let me address that. Typically, the departments work independently of each other and are not on site at the same time. There may be cases where they are, and we can get into those questions. Typically, it's 2 crews or 2 teams, if you will, from each city, so that you do have, normally you have 2 rigs on site, one that's doing the training and then one there for safety if something happens there. But I'll let the applicant address that if there's more questions.
Thank you, Mr. Slaney. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Any other questions from commissioners?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a couple of questions here that I would like to address on the project. I'm looking at the site plan and the grading plan. I'm noticing quite a bit of cutting and filling taking place to regrade the site. I was curious if there is a designated area for temporarily piling for the dirt, not to interrupt flow of any activities. That I believe it should be designated on a site plan or on a grading plan. My other question is, I'm looking at the floor plans of the buildings. I understand this is for training facility. Does this building have to comply with any building code, or is just what I'm not seeing on the plans are restrooms? I don't know if they have to be identified or not, or if they're public in there or staff at some point going to be addressed. Those are the 2 only questions I have.
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, those are great questions. I can address the first one a little bit. I'll let the rest of our staff talk about specific timing, but the intent is to start on demolition and construction once this training season is over. So during demo, construction, and grading, there won't really be anything taking place on site. I don't know if there's detailed storage of dirt and stuff, but I'm sure we can field those questions as we go. I do know the architect did meet with our building official. They are subject to Minnesota State Building Code. I think there are a few nuances or exceptions in there. I don't recall the details, but I think we can address those questions in just a minute.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Slaney?
One. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Slaney, one other question. I would assume that when one of these training exercises going on, and there's a fire, and there's use of water, I think I read here that there will be no chemicals because there's a well head located near to the site, and we don't want any contamination. So that's number one. Secondly, the water that is used will be drained into that area, that low area you're talking about there, and is that enough? Is it deep enough to accommodate that water for any one exercise?
The drainage area will be once these improvements are complete. As you said, everything drains to the north. It sheet drains off the site into this area. I can tell you our engineering department has worked with the designers so that we've got sufficient capacity there, and a design that will protect the wellhead protection area.
Thank you. One follow-up, one other question I have. It's not stated when this project would, if it's passed by the City Council, if our recommendation goes to them and they make a decision when it will start and when it's expected to be completed.
I can tell you they're looking to start very soon and have things up and running in the spring when it warms up for training again, but I'll let the applicant get into those details.
That's all, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Anybody else?
I have two other questions. Thank you, Mr. Chair here.
Commissioner Cherry?
I'm sure there are designated timing schedule for the training activities. Are public or surrounding businesses will be notified in advance where the timing of the schedule or the trainings are? And if they will, how would they cooperate, or how would they work it out? And my other question is, in case of an injury during training program, are there any facilities, permanent facilities, going to be designated in the area for treatments, or is it going to be in mobile? That's all I have.
Thank you, Commissioners. Those are great questions. The first one, let me address. It's my understanding current property owners are not notified of the use of the facility. Again, training is currently taking place. The facility is used quite a bit. I was actually surprised how often the facility is in use now. Staff has not been notified or raised concerns by the neighbors. Obviously, we do have a new development here in this corner with Walmart going in at Cliff and River Ridge. That may raise some concerns or questions, but at this point staff is not setting up a notification program. I will let the rest of the team address the injuries on site, but I appreciate the question because it did remind me to discuss one thing. There is a shelter classroom area that's being proposed. It is not currently on site. This is an existing storage garage that will remain. This is a almost an amphitheater, small shelter, three-sided with a roof with raised steps, so the people involved with the training can get out of the weather, the heat, or the rain, or whatever, and have some discussion. So that is a permanent facility that will have electricity to it. It's not heated or cooled. It's certainly not an occupiable building, but I do want to bring that up, and we can discuss the actions for an incident that may happen.
Any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Slania. I will let the applicant come forward, and if you could please state your name and address for the record, I would appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Commissioners, my name is Quinn Hudson. I'm principal with C&H Architects, and we're out of Apple Valley.
All right. Thank you. Maybe you could just start by a kind of overview of a couple of the issues raised, and then I'll let them ask you some questions.
I'll give you a little overview of the building itself, and then I'll go through the questions I remember, and then just prompt me on ones if I miss some. So First of all, the building is going to be provide a lot more training capabilities for the four cities involved, and in some ways, training capabilities built into it that just weren't available previously. So it's really going to give them a lot of experience, and also in ways that, as were mentioned, that are trying to mimic real life situations as close as we can. The current building is that they burn in only has a couple rooms. The burns are almost always in the same spot. The firefighters get to know where that's going to be, and you can set up a scenario, but it's going to be pretty much very similar. On the new building, there are, with the 3 stories, roof, attic space, each floor has multiple areas where they can burn in, and that gives them an opportunity to really set up a lot of different scenarios and really improve the quality of the training that the firefighter is going to be getting. Let's see. I think in general, that'll move me into a couple other questions. One that was addressed was building codes. Yes, it does need to meet general building codes, and in some ways we want it to be as similar to real buildings as we can. So stairways have railings. They have the same riser heights and tread depths that you would expect. In some ways, there are features that are even more safe, so to speak, than a regular house. There's railings around the roofs, so that when the firefighters are up there doing some of the trainings, they have that extra layer of safety. There is a specific NFPA, which is the Fire Protection Agency, rules and guidelines for burn building construction. So it's kind of like above and beyond the building code itself that the building needs to meet and does. So first of all, in building codes, we certainly are meeting those. Our bathroom-wise, the facility currently has and is intended to continue to use porta-potty type bathrooms for the site. And that's partly because none of the buildings are heated, but the facility is used, 4 seasons. So it allows, a way of addressing the all-season approach. And again, the quantity of people is not that high. As we pointed out, the firefighters come in at most 4 apparatus, 6 apparatus, the 3 that are actually active and then the 3 that are parked. 3, 4 firefighters per apparatus, so that's the general range, plus maybe a chief or deputy chief, a few of the control vehicles. So again, that's why we have 7 stalls, because that is the max that they would use that site for. Beyond that, they don't do, all 4 cities working together or something like that. They do limit it to, that many and often fewer apparatus than I've mentioned. And so that the number of people there on a daily basis is relatively small. And so the porta potty approach has been working fine in the past, and the city is intending to continue to do it that way. Safety, of course, the firefighters do have medical training and equipment with them. There is the outdoor training room. It's kind of a cross between an amphitheater and a park shelter. It's step seating in a real durable material under a shed roof, and that gives that would be a place that they could do minor first aid if there was a need. Grading on site and soil, we're really not changing the grades significantly. We're trying to actually minimize the amount of grade change. For one reason, we got existing asphalt that if we maintain, it has a benefit to the city. The more we grade, the more that there will be an issue. So really all we're doing is taking out the footings from the existing buildings in that area. So there won't be large piles, and there will be some grading, certainly, as we do that. The site is closed for training uses from November 1st to completion around sometime in June. So it won't be an issue of any. It'd be like any typical construction site in that they will move whatever dirt they need around, but it's not going to be in the way of any other circulation or certainly anything else going on for a city. The well areas of storage would all be on the interior of the site. I'm starting to run out of ones I'm remembering, so if you'd prompt me, I'd be happy to answer
Sure.
more questions.
Thank you, Mr. Hudson. Commissioners, any other questions that touched on?
I have one more question.
Sure.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, help me to understand that the facility currently is being used for the same purpose, correct?
Exactly.
Now, does this project increase the use activities or the same level?
It actually doesn't increase the number of people on site, it increases the quality of the training.
Okay.
The two, it's still going to be the same number of personnel on a fire training, just gives them a much better quality experience.
Yeah, my question and concern is whether this is going to create more noise, activities, lights that surrounding neighbors should be more aware of, notified.
My understanding is that there will be probably a slight increase in usage, but not a significant amount. I mean, it currently gets used quite a bit.
Right.
And as mentioned, there is not a notice that goes out to people in the homes there. But the one thing I did want to add that you did remind me of that we were mentioning is that obviously the current property owners in that area are familiar with it and are used to the process going on. The new neighbor, of course, is Walmart. And Chief Youngman has met with Walmart last week. They're very excited and supportive of being next to the city facility. So it is something that they were conscious of and wanted to be proactively connecting with the new neighbor.
So if I am a Walmart shopper walking out of the store, I wouldn't be jumping, surprised, what's going on?
Yeah,
I guess that's my main question.
Yeah. It's not something that they're there before, but it's you may see some smoke, but it is quite a distance away. It's not like it's feeling like I'm too close to some area. Screened as well as we can. There's a lot of existing trees around the site. There is some opening at the entrance gate, of course, to get in. So.
Thank you.
Commissioners, Mr. White?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just for the point of clarification, because I've heard both you and Mr. Slater refer to it being used quite a lot. What is quite a lot? I know you said there's about 6 apparatus at a time, but how often is it exactly?
We were saying 80 to 85 times a year is what's projected. That's a little bit more than current, but that's the projected uses. About 50% of those include a live burn. There's a lot of other training opportunities, whether it be attic access, rappelling, targeted with the ladder truck targeting the 4-story tower, extrication through windows, things like that. So a lot of other training types to go on as well as beyond just the live fire.
Thank you.
Any other questions, Commissioners? All right, thank you. This is a public hearing, so I would open the public hearing for anybody who cares to comment. Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Any further comments from Commissioners at this time?
Mr. Chair, first of all, a comment. This is a collaboration among 4 cities. I think this is what we need, more of this kind of thing happening in our municipalities. It shows that they can work together for the common good of all 4 cities. And I commend all 4 of the cities, especially Burnsville, for hosting this facility. It shows a lot of leadership from our city leaders, and I commend them. The conditions, Mr. Chair and Commissioners, the second condition, all personnel doing training shall only use water. No chemicals are allowed when training. I think we need to complete that to say why we should not use chemicals. And I would like to suggest that we add to cause any threat of pollution to the drinking water. If you just leave it, all personnel doing training shall only use water, no chemicals. Yeah. But if you don't do that, what can happen? We need to clarify it with that ending. If you don't mind, I would suggest that we add that to the condition. I think it's a great project, and I will support it.
Commissioners, anybody else have comments on the requested modification change?
I have
I don't feel like it's necessary personally. I think you start getting into the reasons, and then what if you have a chemical that's not a pollutant? I don't know. I just think it keeps it simpler if you just leave it as it is to me.
The chair, it says no chemicals.
I guess if you want to make that amendment to the motion, if there's a...
There's no motion yet, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, I was just going to make a note. Staff can adjust that condition before we get to the council, just to clarify it and provide as much information as we can.
All right, that would be great. Any other comments?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I have one more. I have a comment actually. Again, I agree with the commissioner. It's a great project. It's a good cooperation of cities. I would like to see, if possible, more activity or more concern about notifications of surrounding facilities and businesses prior to an event. And however they want to disperse their information to their staff or public, that'll be up to them. So that's my main concern, that notifications are in place, the schedule, the system, on time, and how it's being implemented. Other than that, it's a great project and I support it.
Mr. Chair, I'm in full support. I think it's great. I love to see the expanded use of the area, and I mean, I think from my perspective, on a notification basis, we're talking about a non-residential area where the neighbors are familiar with it. I don't think. I mean, the only people who are probably gonna notice it may be people driving on Cliff, but for the most part, I think it's pretty hidden. I would think you would see it from 35W, and I can't think of a time I've ever noticed it. To be honest, until this came up, I didn't know it was there. So I don't see any reason to change anything. I'm not concerned about notifications or anything.
Commissioner Terry?
Yes, Mr. Chair. In response to your comments, from what I understand, we are dealing with 40 feet high facility versus the existing one. So I think it'll be more visible once this construction is done or training is in place versus what currently is being used.
Do we know how high is a facility?
I don't know off the top of my head.
40 feet, 2.5 inches.
No, the
current one.
Oh, the old one.
The current tower, while a lot smaller in footprint, is 4 stories as well, so it's about in that 40-foot range.
Oh, it
So
is.
it's not particularly different.
Thank you. Any motions to approve? Mr. Singh?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Chair of Commissioners, I beg to move that the Planning Commission recommend to the City Council approval of the rezoning of the subject property from B3 General Business to B3 PUD General Business Planned Unit Development for a new fire department training facility located at 50 River Ridge Court, conditioned on the following 2 conditions. 1, any new signage shall be subject to the applicable provisions of the city's sign ordinance and sign permit. And 2, all personnel doing training shall only use water. No chemicals are allowed when training. Blah, blah, for staff is going to end that one up for us.
All right. Second? Anybody?
I'll second.
All right, we have a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All against, please say nay. Hearing none, it is passed 4-0. Thank you.
Go to the City Council.
It will be going to the City Council on October 16th of 2012.
Good luck.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Good luck.
The next item on the agenda is a public hearing for ordinance amendment to the Burnsville City Zoning Code, Title 10, Chapter 9, addressing land reclamation, mining, soil processing, and general earthwork, and Chapter 26A, interim uses in the GIM Gateway Industrial District. Mr. Slaney.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. Again, it is another application by the City of Burnsville. This is an ordinance amendment. Although the language may look a little minor in the red line version, there is a lot of background here, a lot of implications. Staff believes positive implications with this. To start off, much of this is being initiated by the County Road 5 Highway 13 project. As part of that, the grades will change significantly. There will be excess soils coming out of that project to save all the agencies time and money with the construction. City staff has been pursuing ideas for relocating the dirt that's going to be excavated out. Running parallel to that, city staff and the city council also reviewed some of the property conditions, if you will, within the MRQ north of 13, west of Highway 13. Discovered many of those parcels have poor soils, peat, other issues where redevelopment just will not occur until those soils are corrected. This is an amendment that will allow property owners to work independently or in conjunction with the city to try to improve those the soils on their property, hopefully at limited cost because of the soil that we are excavating from 5 and 13. The ordinance would propose these remediation activities be permitted through an interim use permit. That permit would run until 2017, so that all the properties down there would be on a similar schedule. We wouldn't have sunset dates for one property off by a couple years of a different property. We run into some of those issues now. With the proposed language, they would be on the same schedule. And further, the language also requires, let me step back, the language in the zoning ordinance typically allows people to do things. It sets maximums, minimums. It doesn't necessarily require someone to do a project like this or to perform in a certain way. So as part of this, as each interim use permit comes in through the Planning Commission and City Council, there will be a development agreement where the city and property owner agree on certain conditions depending on the size of the site, the conditions of the soils, so that there's somewhat of an agreement on both sides. Again, this is a little unique. This is language that's not found anywhere else in the ordinance right now, but it is an opportunity to kill two birds with one stone, if you will. Mr. Chair, Commissioners, I'll stand for questions. Our Community Development Director, Jenny Faulkner, is here. She's been working on this project as well and can hopefully answer questions if I can't.
Thank you, Mr. Slaney. Commissioners, any questions?
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Slaney?
Senior, I know we talked about this at the Planning Commission last year when you were introduced to this project, and we all supported the project. One thing I want to get clarification is that any city, any homeowner who would like to use some of the soil being dug up from the streets and need it and want to get in their property. Now, the cost of that, they have to stand the cost of that, right?
Well, let me clarify one or a couple things. This would apply to commercial sites only.
Commercial sites.
So we're dealing with many truckloads, many tons of soil. I believe the costs incurred, the costs of the transportation occurred on the city's behalf. Is that To be determined. To be determined. As, I guess, depending on how far away the site is from the construction area, how much dirt they need, that would be part of the development agreement.
To be clear, no business owner is being mandated to participate in this.
No.
Mr. Slane, my understanding is that basically if they want to upgrade at this time, probably at a cost savings, because at least the dirt would be there and maybe even transportation available, this would be the time to do it.
This would be an opportune time to do it. They're not obligated to, and at this point, we're not sure how many players we may have.
Sort of like an incentive to help you with a problem of excess fill and maybe allow them to upgrade for the future, essentially.
Exactly.
Any other questions? Any questions for Ms. Faulkner?
We are honored to have her to our meeting.
He's missing Monday Night Football.
All right. Thank you. This is a public hearing. So at this time, I will open the public hearing. If anybody has any questions or comments, seeing none, I will close the public hearing. Commissioners, any comments before motion?
Mr. Chair, I think this is from the city. The application is worthy of our support. It shows again collaboration between city and the business community, and this amendment here would help the businesses, as you said so ably a little while ago, improve their property, their land. If they can't afford it now, there is a staging place for the soil, and then later on they can complete the project. So I think it's a great project, and it will get my support.
Thank you, Commissioner Singh. As will it get mine. I think it's an excellent idea. It seems to be forward-thinking, and hopefully it's used by the people who want to upgrade their soils now and save everybody some money, hopefully in the future. Anybody else?
Just one other
Sure.
thing I would like to add. I would like to commend staff for the work they have done on Title 10 in Section 1. Mostly this thing is to update it to benefit our business community and the city, of course.
Sure.
So
So noted.
staff need to be commended.
So noted. Excellent work. Thank you. Any motion?
Sure. I will make a motion. I move that the Planning Commission recommends to the City Council approval of the attached ordinance amendment addressing land reclamation, mining, soil processing, and general earthwork, and interim uses in the Gateway Industrial Medium District as presented.
Second?
Second, Chair.
Hearing a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All against, please say nay. Hearing none, the motion is passed 4-0. This will be going also to the council on October 16th at that time. I think that brings us to item 5, which is updates. Staff, any updates?
Commissioners, the only update would be the draft agenda for your next meeting on Monday, October 22nd.
Commissioners, any updates?
Nope.
With that, I will entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second, anybody?
Second.
Second it. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All in favor against say nay. Passes 4-0. We are adjourned. Thank you very much.